When I played This Is the Police, I remember the initial sell of the game being its deep, divergent storyline, which led you through the life of a semi-corrupt police chief trying to figure out whether to spend his last days on the force actually cleaning up the city, or whether to hit a corruption grand slam and retire with $1 million pension. And it might be the basest heresy to say so, but I wasn't really turned on by the narrative portion of This Is the Police. The voiceover was cheesy, to say the least, the motion comic style of the cutscenes was visually unappealing, and I felt more bogged down by the story than motivated by it. Every cutscene felt like a slog rather than a divergent segment of compelling narrative. What I did enjoy was the game portion, the squad and situation management, where you sent cars of police around the city to deal with different situations, and you get rewarded based on timeliness and appropriate response, all while trying to keep your officers well-rested, trained, and alive. This portion of the game was the most entertaining to me, but it was too rare in a title that I felt was too far up its own ass with story to be an effective game. However, I am in luck, because it looks like a small Polish game studio, Jutsu Games, had exactly the same idea, and plucked the emergency management elements right out of This Is the Police and added a bit of their own to make 911 Operator. To be strictly accurate, despite how it's labeled by a whole bunch of people online, 911 Operator is not a simulation game. I don't think that there's any job on the planet where you can command the combined forces of the fire department, police department, and EMT services, as well as hire and fire employees, manage their equipment and daily routines, and answer the phones at a 911 call center.
It's not even an emergency. It's a bat in your house.
Please.
So, what do you want me to do? Send Batman?
I don't care whom you send, just send someone.
If this is a simulator to a single job, that guy needs a secretary and a raise. As the apparently single 911 operator and holder of all the keys to any emergency service, you hire and equip your staff and set them loose on one of 7 troubled metropolises. You have until the end of your 8-hour work shift to solve the city's problems as they present themselves. Later cities will have more and larger challenges, but you start unlocking better tools to deal with them. As fires erupt, burglars break into homes, fights start at bars, and fluctuating stock markets cause heart attacks, little blips will pop up on the city map, and you'll have to dispatch the right emergency services to the location. Reading the description of the emergency will help you decide what priority that incident had. Scraped knee? Maybe less important than the industrial accident on the other side of town. Clearing cars after a traffic collision? Maybe less important than the apartment block joyously burning its occupants down with it. Approximately 1 out of every 5 or so of these emergencies will have you fielding the call yourself. You'll talk to the person on the other line and try to get them to describe the situation so you can deal with it.
My friend is injured.
What happened to your friend?
They knocked him down. He's hurt and having breathing problems.
Okay, just make sure he doesn't move until the ambulance arrives.
Sure.
Did they have any weapons?
Yeah, a gun.
All right, sir, we'll take care of it. Just wait for emergency services to arrive.
Yeah, I will.
There's a certain protocol to answering calls. You want to know where the call is coming from right away so you can send response vehicles as fast as possible. And you want to know what happened so you can send the right vehicles. You'll also want to know the threat level, since a car parked next to an embassy might be a bomb, or one of the secretaries might be pissed that somebody took their spot. This is a really cool mechanic. It lets you use your problem-solving skills in a way that makes success feel necessary and rewarding, with very little graphics or mechanics behind it. It's also mildly educational. Maybe you don't personally know that throwing water on the smoldering toaster would be a bad idea, and that instructing the person on the other end of the line to do so will make a small fire into a big fire. You can mess up these calls and make the situation worse.
Is there anything else going on besides the cables hanging down?
Wait, the ground under the bench is slided, and there's some water flowing out. I guess some pipe is bursted.
Is the water spreading out on the field?
Yes, I can see that now. It flows slowly, but it's spreading.
Are the victims lying in the water?
Yes, should I get them away from there?
They need your help.
Okay, I'm not deaf. There's a girl laying on...
And then I had to send police and an ambulance. If you solve emergency calls correctly, on time, and with the right units, you get reputation points, and in some cases, cash. Get enough reputation and you can move on to the next city. Cash will let you hire more responders and get more vehicles and equipment for them to use, making your next go at keeping the city safe that much easier. It's a really cool cycle. It makes for very addictive gameplay. I only have 3 issues with the game as it exists today. The first is simply a matter of difficulty. It feels like all the cities leading up to Los Angeles are essentially tutorials. calls. You're not challenged to put your managerial skills to the test until your first San Andreas fault-driven earthquake, and I feel like this is where the game peaked. The primary challenge in the game is juggling multiple emergencies at once, and around the middle of the game, this mechanic hit its stride. The only problem is that the game has run out of its stock set of emergencies at this point, especially with the scripted 911 calls. Once you've heard the 5th, "My counter is on fire, okay ma'am, put water on it" call, or the "I found an unconscious man on the street" call, it's started to become routine. These kinds of game assets will always be a finite resource. If you have a set of scripted out audio calls, you're gonna reach a point where you start hearing them over and over again. This point comes too quickly in 911 Operator, and while there are still the odd calls that come in that change up the formula, answering the emergency line becomes a time sink far too early. This is the kind of thing that can be expanded, of course, and I can see mods or DLC packs coming out to increase the number of 911 calls exponentially, and that kind of addition would do the game a great service. That element of repetition points out at least where This Is the Police did well. Even when the game became somewhat repetitive, you had the thread of plot linking all of your actions. You were always looking to maximize your days so you could retire with that $500,000 at the end. You didn't know whether you were going to make it, so you tried as hard as possible in each of the days. In 911 Operator, there's no greater scheme, no personal blowback if you didn't do so well. Just chalk up the losses, collect the rather large day's income, and keep building your force. Reaching a fail state in Operator seems nigh impossible as well, and there's really no end game either. Unlock all the cities and reach a point where it's plumb easy to solve all your growing catastrophes without breaking a sweat, and that's pretty much it. Oh, you can download your hometown's map and play it in-game, and that's pretty cool, but it's a novelty that doesn't really add any more meat to the core experience. I think that 911 Operator was always going to be, almost by definition, a shorter play experience. By that metric, is it worth $15? I will say this, it's a cool concept, executed just about as fully as a small game studio could do, and within their means. That's refreshing no matter how you slice it. Get it for 10 and we'll call it even. Hey, Jitsu, throw in some extra voiceover DLC down the line, maybe some more mission types, maybe a disaster mode, and for $15, you got yourself a deal.
Well, we can talk for a moment.
Okay, but maybe we shall meet after your work so I don't block the line?
No, it's fine now.
Okay, then tell me please, what's most challenging about your work?
Well, there are just so many reports and teams, it's really hard to handle.
Then what is most satisfying or entertaining about it?
The management's quite challenging. Air controllers can learn a lot from us, I can tell you.
Okay, I would like to ask a couple of technical questions, but maybe I should send you an email with those so you can reply in text in your free time?
Sure, however you prefer it. Send them to... com.
Okay, thank you so much. I'll write right away.
You're welcome.
Requesting air